Hi there, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Beneath the Lift Tower. My name's Charles McGillivray, and as always, I'm joined by Jess Keble and Simon Stacey. We're a fans podcast by fans for fans of Northampton Saints. We're also being proudly supported by the rugby paper. There's a couple of really good Saints articles in it this week, one with Callum Jick and one with Jake Sharp. So look out for that and have a read. How are you both doing?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Not good after that, was it? But yeah, I'm good myself, thanks, mate.
Bit of a backed up with a bang, wasn't it? Or a bump. Yeah, I mean, this returning from international periods, they've said they've learnt lessons and all this sort of stuff, but it's the same issues, really, isn't it? That performance was, I mean, it was abysmal, is the only way of describing it, right? Because, there were lots of effort, it was just very flat and, lacked energy and enthusiasm and it was slow and, they looked like they were they weren't attacking with aggression. They weren't doing things with aggression. Everything seemed like they'd run through training runs rather than like real match intensity. And if you do that in the Prem against a quality outfit like Bears, then well, that's what happens.
Yeah. At least me and you weren't there, mate. Eh?
Yeah, exactly.
Poor Jess.
Yeah.
Yeah, long old trip.
Yeah, it was fine. It's not the first and probably will not be the last time I go to an away game where we don't come away the winners. I mean, I went to La Rochelle when we got absolutely hammered and it was like -10 outside. So it has been worse. I can definitely say that. But
trust me, I've been to hundreds of games where we got absolutely battered. So I know the feeling, but yeah, it just can't have been good because they were awful, weren't they? They're just really poor.
Yeah. And thing is, I feel like it's a little bit different some of the past international periods though, because we've had it before where we've come back from the international period, we've brought all the players back in and that hasn't worked for whatever reason. But this time you've got some players that actually played a decent chunk of rugby over the PRC and some that have already played together. And so I just felt like there was even less of an excuse for kind of that performance that we've had before. Because I was like, a lot of you have played a decent number of minutes actually in the past month or 5-6 weeks, however long it's been since the last one. And so I was like, yeah, I think before we'd had come back from the international season once before, haven't we? Put all the players in and just they weren't quite ready. But this time you had a team made up of pretty much except Finn Smith, you had a team made up of people that had played minutes. And so I struggle even more than normal to figure out why that happened, to be honest. But it was, you could tell, I mean, obviously the red card within 90 seconds didn't help. But you could just tell even within the first, honestly, within the first 10 to 15 minutes, it was clear that we were not going to win. I know that sounds strange because you can come back from, teams have come back from big scores, but we knew straight away, I was there with my mum, we just knew that this was going to be a losing cause.
It just seemed to be going further and further. Like a couple of tries, you think, oh, right, they can switch it on, get a bit of momentum, momentum shift. But it just never shifted. Like they just got further and further and further away. I mean, but you say about, they had lots of time together. They've not played particularly well together through that PRC period. We didn't have the greatest form in the Prem in terms of performances, but we got results. We went into the PRC, obviously change of personnel, etc., etc. But they look at that Leicester game, the week before, and it was flat and not ideal at all. It's like why would we have expected anything different? Because that's what's happened. We sort of reliant on Finn coming in and then suddenly, which is a hard task for him to just be dropped in, having the mental sort of challenge of that England camp, not getting the game time he wants, coming into that performance. It's like we pinned all our hopes on him performing almost, and I mean, first of all, the forwards packs didn't turn up today, so we had no ball. The aggression wasn't there. We didn't do anything with intent to aggression, and that was therefore it. There's not much more to be said in my view.
I feel like Smith is really the only one I'd say would have an excuse because he's really played no rugby. Like you think about even before England, even with the Lions, he didn't play much, and then he wasn't back with us for very long, and then he went back into the England club and didn't play very many minutes. So he does need a few weeks really to get himself back into form. So I was like, and I also don't think he was. I actually don't think he was that bad. I think he kept trying things and just other people weren't didn't feel like other people in the back lines were kind of locked in. Like he was
Yeah,
trying the stuff he normally tries and it wasn't working. So I was like, I don't even put the blame with him because I think things weren't working, but at least he was trying things. I think the same with Furbank. I actually thought Furbank was excellent, which sounds weird to say considering the scoreline. But I thought that was a real bright spark of like the way he's playing. And if we can get everyone else up to that level, we'd be in a really good place. But I felt like the both of them were really trying. They were trying their damned hardest essentially to get them back into the game. And you could see it with the work up to the Furbank try was absolutely lovely. That whole movement, all the passes, absolutely lovely. So it's like when it's there, it's there. But and that time it kind of came off, but it just didn't for the rest of it. For whatever
the Litchfield trial was it?
Litchfield, yeah, sorry, Litchfield,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
And
Furbank
yeah,
put that amazing kick through.
yeah, that's what I mean. Sorry, I got him mixed up there. I was like, I know he did something in that. Yeah, and that was really nice. The passes and then the kick through. I was like, so, and that was Finn and Furbank that had essentially made that happen. So they were trying throughout the whole game, but it just was not clicking the way, no one else was really doing what they needed to do. And it was such a shame because we know what all of those players can do individually and as a team. Like we have seen it. We know it's there. It just for some reason it just seems to be something about the Bears and that's now the third season in a row we've lost to them away and quite heavily as well. And so there's something there that the club need to work on as well about why it's this team in particular. But yeah, it was unfortunate. I'm not going to say it like ruined my weekend or everything. I had a fun time kind of before that, but yeah, it was a bit of a kind of a letdown at the end when yeah, it's just like they never really got off the bus, bar a couple of them really.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. You just mentioned him. The only positive out of a lot of negatives was Ferbs. He looks like he's back to being Ferbs. So if we can look at a positive note, that's the only one we can take out of it. Yeah, the boy's back. So good to see because that injury he had looked very, very dodgy, didn't it, with his arm, bless him. So
Yeah, he
looks like
had the arm, and then he had issues in both of his legs, didn't he?
yeah,
both of his calves. Sounds like it was one thing after another for him, bless him. But yeah, he seemed absolutely like fit and raring to go, and he's now getting some good minutes under his belt. And I think he was really trying. And anytime we were on the front foot, he had a massive part to do with that. It just didn't happen often enough. And like you said, the forwards. I mean, I think there's a lot of people online who seem to going, oh, all of the selection was wrong, and I was like, was it? Because I was like, who do we actually have to pick otherwise? I was sort of questioning. I was like, you do realize that we've got these internationals that have a break, these people that have injuries. I said they picked the team that made the most sense with who they had available. I would say that I felt like, and this is nothing on against Chick or Graham, it just wasn't working. And I think them two together didn't quite work. I think we needed Pearson in because I think he's better kind of over the ball and trying to get ball back and turnovers, etc. And that was a massive thing that was missing for so much. We just didn't compete at all.
Yeah, no, but Sam Graham's top player as well. So like, it's not.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not really personnel or selection. It's just
No.
performance.
Yeah.
I mean, like you say, other than Furbank, who I do agree played exceptionally well. I thought he was put under a lot of pressure and he did a tremendous job and had that bit of spark in attack. And like you said, there was when Hutch came on, that sort of axis of the play we do where Hutch takes it really flat to the line, makes a decision, often playing it out back. How many times did his pass go to the floor? And that's just not what we're used to with, and it's not on Hutch individually, it's on the whole unit of that play. It's everyone involved in that play wasn't working, and that's not what they're used to. That's not the standard that they operate at. So there's something whereby maybe it's not had enough time on the training pitch together. They're coming out of different camps and different playing. They've sort of lost that synchronicity together. But so therefore, we hope that will come with time. But like, it's almost like this almost felt like a pre-season get things up and running, go through the motions. When reality is that was a Premiership game. We need points. We need to accumulate points through the season, and you can't afford to have days off. It's one of those ones where I've said it for a while now. Like, I really just cannot wait until we can get our best team on the pitch. And it's not any knock on the team that played or knock on the selection because it wasn't possible. I felt they picked the best team they could possibly pick, and like you said, maybe Pearson would have been stronger, but Graham's class. So I wasn't thinking, oh, that's a terrible decision or anything like that. They just didn't turn up. But I can't wait till we get that first team playing well, and seeing where we can go with it, because it just seems that so far this season that we haven't had that, have we? We've had players out injured, we've had players away with internationals, we've had rest weeks for internationals. I just like, hopefully they've used these Champions Cup spells previous in the last couple of years to build some momentum, get the group back together, and then build into the sort of mainstay of the season, albeit with a big gap for the Six Nations. But I feel like that's really needed. It's like it feels like we need pre-season again, because we haven't, they just haven't got to the levels we need to get to.
No, it did confuse me a lot about comments online where they were like, the selection was all wrong. And I was like, that's the first team that we had. They picked the best people in the positions based on who we had. And I know people will say, well, they could have brought more England stars back in, blah blah blah. But I said, you're in kind of a situation that's sort of impossible. You've got like Mitch and Coles, for example, that played a lot of minutes in that Quarter Nation series. So you're then going to turn around and say, well, you have to play now, boys. Like, what if they need a rest? And I get it. Yeah, it could have been any time in the 3-week period, but I also really don't think that doing it for a European fixture is a good idea. Like, there's no winning in that situation. Like, they're all big fixtures coming up. They're all big fixtures across the whole. So
you could play them and they need that break, and then you lose the game anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm not saying that the players would have come in and been rubbish. That's definitely not what I'm saying. But if you've got someone that's sort of mentally and physically fatigued from a Quarter Nation series, and also some of them also coming back off the Lions, having a little break and then straight back in as well, like, what sort of performance are you expecting to get out of them? Like, definitely with someone like a Coles and a Mitch who played most of the minutes in those matches, like, they definitely need a break before they start getting back into action, certainly. So I was just sort of left thinking, like, who did you want them to pick?
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't really, and then, like you said, you can never take into account the fact that you don't know when you selected those people that unfortunately they're going to have an off day. Like, so you have picked the strongest people in your positions, and I just felt I'd seen some comments about it on Saints. I just felt desperately sorry for Archie at some of the comments people were making, because I was like, are you really going to tell me that you can pick out one person out of that team that played worse than everyone? I don't think so. Like, no. It was like an off-color day for the whole team. So the idea to go like, it's that person's fault or it's that person's fault. And even if it was one particular person, like, you don't just go online and start trashing someone because you've had one bad performance. Bearing in mind we hadn't lost up to that point, and everyone's acting like somehow the world is now ending and it's all going to come crashing down. And I was like, you can take you back to last season. We're in the European final, the season before we win the Premiership, and we didn't beat Bristol in either of those 2 seasons. So I was like, it's not some kind of, like, it's not great to have a performance like that, but to act like that must mean that the rest of the season's all just going to be an absolute horror fest the rest of the way. I was like, I don't really buy into that, especially when you think about who you've got out still and who is available to come back. Like the England stars, you still got Slightholme that I think was rested as a precaution. Ram still to come back in. Like, there are still some huge people missing, but when they come back in, will definitely make a difference. So it just felt like, I felt there's a lot of sort of. It's never nice to see a performance like that. I'm not going to say that it's not bad, but I also feel like we put way too much stock into one performance in a season worth of performances. Like, we're still in the top 4, we're third, and we're like joint points with second and like a couple behind first. Like, we're not out of any kind of fight. Like, I feel like sometimes I'm like, bring the temperature down slightly and just
you look at the sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying, look, it sucks that for whatever reason we can't make it work after the international periods, and I definitely think they need to do some work on what that is. But like you said, you've also got different people in different camps. Some people going away with England Day one weekend, some going away with England Day the next weekend, and the others coming back. All of the England senior stars gone, so it's not even that all of them are coming back from one place. They're coming back from all over the shop. Internationals like Hutch coming back from Scotland, and him having his own different experience. Like, you've basically got to manage, because we're doing so well as a team, you're getting all these great international call-ups, which is fantastic. But when you've got 13, 14, 15 people going away with different teams, different countries, all having to come back into one setup, that is probably exceptionally hard to have to deal with. Yes, I still think they need to do more work on figuring out what the sort of issue is, but to act like it's some really easy situation to deal with, it definitely isn't. And yeah, they may not have gotten it right yet, but
yeah, I think there's so many things there. I mean, first of all, I think the point you said there, we had players away with England, we had players away with Scotland, we had players away with Italy, we had players away with England Day. all during that period, and therefore the volumes generally in training, and also the club took the decision to give some of those players who had played the bulk of that first phase of the season weeks off, go refresh, go away, and so therefore you think the training weeks are going to be pretty disjointed. Again, the interview that Jake Sharp did with in the rugby paper, he said they've got 7 or 8 under 18s currently training with the squad, right? And so that's what that is that's tremendous for those under 18s, because they get the standards imposed on them. It raises their standards. They go away to local schools and rugby clubs and raise the standard across the board where they train, and that's how you build that culture of producing talent. But what it also does, it will degrade the talent, the training standard within the potentially, so you lose all your top international players, and then you bring in rookies, youngsters who are learning their craft. Your standard is naturally going to decline. And if you're you come in for a week of a holiday, and suddenly you're running around with under 18s players, it's a bit of a shock when suddenly you step up to Prem rugby standard. Bearing in mind, we don't know I don't know what Bears' approach was. Bears could have had 5 weeks of intense training to prepare for that one big match, because that might have been the decision they took. It might hurt them in the long run, but the club have taken the decision to rest players through the season as we go. And you talk about picking on individual youngsters within the squad, just get on page with what's happening, understand what's happening at Northampton Saints. Like Jake Sharp made the clear point in that interview that we are a development club. We produce a majority of our squad. I think we have the most of our squad from in the Prem comes from our own academy than any other club. And in my opinion, if you look at the best clubs in the world, Leinster, Crusaders, etc., it's almost 100%, 95% of their players come through their academies. Right? So even though we're the best in the Prem, I think there's room to get better at it. But what that means is you're going to play young players and they're going to make mistakes, because that's what happens.
It's only, and I'm not trying to alienate some fans here, but they're only like the fickle fans that will turn up when we're winning. True fans that go week, like I've been going over nearly 40 years. You guys have been going God knows how many decades yourselves. Is you understand you can't win every game. You don't pick on play. A proper rugby fan, you support your team. You don't pick on individuals, especially a young lad like Archie. I saw those comments Jess was on about. They're absolutely disgusting. And I don't know if he listens to this, but if he does, we can only apologise for them idiots that said that, because his family might read that. Do you know what I mean? It's not. It's not rugby. It's not what rugby's about. It shouldn't be allowed.
No, yeah.
We you can't tell me anybody that does whatever job don't have a bad day. We were top of the Premiership. We'd won. Was it 5 out of 5? That was it, and that's it. We're not going to carry that on with the amount of players we have missing, and it's absolutely disgusting that people would pick people out. The team lost as a whole, not just one person. So.
Yeah, 4.5 out of 5, wasn't it? Because we drew that.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, drew that.
Yeah, sorry.
But it's just, and like you said, it's like, I know that players and their families are in that group. That I don't want to name it because I don't think it's not just that group. I think the comments were coming from everywhere. But this is where I happen to see them in the everyone knows what Facebook group I'm talking about. And I know that players and their family members are in it. But I'm also thinking, how do you think that's helping someone? How do you think that's helping them? All of those players, Archie included, some of the others, would have felt pretty crap, on the bus back home the next day when they got back in today and had to go through that game. Like, I don't really see how adding and them having to read these kind of things adds anything to in any way. Like, they said he's still a development player, McParlin. Like, think about some of the incredible things he's done for England in the under 20s categories. Like,
he played for 18 as well.
And 80s, like, some of the amazing things that he's done. He's an amazing player, and I've no doubt he'll go on to be an amazing player. But yeah, the whole team was off that day. Like, he didn't have anything great to work with either. So it's not like it's. And then, like you said, the whole team was put under the cosh with a 20-minute, the 20-minute red, 20 minutes where they scored 2-3 tries in that period, and it's just. That is also just what it is, absolutely no complaints about the card whatsoever. Absolutely the correct decision, but you're just under the cosh straight away. And against a team like theirs, we talked about it before, like you give their attacking players a chance to do it, they'll score tries against you. That's the one thing they've always been able to do very well. And that is what happened. And that again isn't any of the other players on the pitch's fault either that happened, and that they also had to deal with that situation. And to be honest, like, we've lost to them by more in the past couple of years. Like, like it has been worse. We've actually had a worse performance against Bears. I can't remember if it was last season or the one before away, where they put 50 points on us, and we had some proper first team players in that squad. So yeah, it's not fantastic, and like I said, you want to make sure that next season that's definitely an away game that you really want to push in terms of getting. It just came at the wrong time this year. There was just nothing that you're in a situation that you kind of have to deal with. But yeah, there are things that kind of went wrong, and a 10-minute card is enough to have to put up with against Bristol, but 20 minutes, it just kind of felt like what came after was a bit inevitable in that particular period before Hutch came on.
Yeah, we just couldn't get a grasp of the game at that point. Like, they became relentless. They scored 3 tries, I think, in that period. Like, we just couldn't get the foothold. And like, the difference between, it can't be like, with these things, it's not a personal thing, and you can't criticize. You can analyze and say, well, if that was better, then this would have happened, and it would have been better. There was. It was 100%. There was a factor is we couldn't get a grip in the game. Some of our skill execution wasn't good enough. We didn't win the ball back enough from kick chase. We gave them. Therefore, we were essentially just giving them the ball. And you give them the ball, man extra. It's like you put yourself under pressure. But then we weren't winning collisions. It's like you got to baseline, get up, get in the line, put big shots in. It's like we're getting up, accepting the passively defence, and then we're just walking up pitch. That's not what this side is about. And let's not forget as well, our defence coach was with Scotland during the period as well, right? So it's another big emotional voice who has been a massive benefit to the club. Rad coming in, like. Think about what would have happened, if he'd worked with Toby Tame for, and I'm not criticizing. I'm not saying Toby Tame was bad or anything. I'm just saying, as an example of a young player in a big defensive position. Imagine if he had had a month of Radders working with him and whilst playing games as well. Like, you would have seen him improve, and it's sort of like all those factors led to that performance. And if we'd have shaped up physically a bit better, it wouldn't have been like that. If we'd have kicked better, it wouldn't have been like that. Everything went wrong. Like, across the board.
Yeah, pretty much.
We hadn't put the ball on the floor as much. We'd have been better. Many.
It was the card that kicked it off, wasn't it? Like, you go down to 40 men after 90 seconds, and then nothing goes right after. It's just everything is working against you. Is it? Well, I say against you. That I don't mean that as in like the red card was unfair, but I just mean like everything else. It's just the more that stuff happens, the more you drop a ball or you do a forward pass or something doesn't work out the way you kind of want it to or whatever. It was almost like a relentless kind of litany of errors. And once you get into that cycle, it's essentially impossible to kind of get out of the cycle. I would say like one thing that I did felt like worked well for us was the line outs. They were pretty secure with Kemeny getting the ball. Like, I think he was a bit absent around the pitch in sort of other areas of the game, but the line out felt secure at all times. It never really felt like it was under threat or under pressure, which is definitely a positive to kind of take away from it. That Wright had put in some really good throws and Kemeny had got those balls. It was nice and secure. And it maybe necessarily hasn't been that way in other games. So
playing by themselves, weren't they? Kemeny must take every ball.
He did.
You know why that was, don't you? Because they're Prowls and JJ. I'm not lifting either of those two. Do you know what I'm
saying? Yeah,
to be fair, though, Prowls has been jumping in the cup.
Yeah.
So he's obviously adding that string to his bow. But yeah, I mean, you're right.
That was the thing, though. We said before, haven't we, that like I don't know if Prowse and JJ as a 4-5 combo works together. I think you need like a Munger or Coles, but we just couldn't pick them. So again, there's nothing that the team could have done there. Yeah, I just think that like. Yeah, exactly. It's just, Lockett, Coles and Munger are all very, very different players to JJ. And that's why those combinations can work well together, because they're the way that they do things are very different. But again, you're kind of forced into making that call because of injuries, nothing that you can do about that. And and that's just the way that it was. But yeah, considering that Kennedy probably knew he was going to have to catch all of them because he was like the only option, he was very steady.
It adds
And
into that
secure with it.
conversation about the seven as well, though, because Pearson's a really good line-out option as well. So if you added, if you
Yeah.
had Pearson, Chick, and Kemeny, it sort of gives you a bit more variety. But Graham goes up in the air and all this sort of stuff. But it's part of that interesting call as to why they went with Graham, because when you have the 2 second rows, it sort of you need all your options available in the back row. But it didn't matter because they just kept going to Kemeny and it worked. So,
and it worked. And then you had kind of the flip side of that. And I must confess that I haven't watched the game back because I only got back on Sunday, and then it was other game, F1, other things I was watching, so I didn't watch it back. I didn't really know what was happening with the scrums. From what I've seen online, people seem to think that he wasn't reffing it very well. It's hard to tell when you're there in person because you can hear the ref on the thing, but you're only seeing one side of the scrum, right? So if he's saying something's happened on the other side, I can't say, no, it didn't, because I simply don't know. But, you're also in a difficult position when, and again, this is nothing against Manny, because Manny is, when he's on top form, he's on seriously top form. But, having to sub him off after half an hour is just tough, isn't it? But the reality was that they had to, because he'd had 3 penalties against them. The warning had come, and they did not have a choice. It was a case of, for whatever reason, either Tempo is seeing something that he doesn't like about it, or they just are scrumming us off the park, and they had to make the change. And then it was kind of the same with Trev. For whatever reason, they kind of had our number in that area in that game. But we have seen we've seen some of the other games at the start of the season where it's been really strong, and we see some really big improvements from last season. So again, is it just everyone just for whatever reason was not at a 100% that day? Are there other questions around it? Again, I would have had to watch it back to see what the decisions were, because I don't really know. But
I think it became an experience thing because we talked about the red card, right? And that was bang on a red card. Tordare just didn't see him. Wasn't looking, to be fair. Didn't see him. Landed on the back of his shoulders. It's a red card, right?
Horrible.
So that was probably the only decision Tempest got correct in the entire game, right? Because and this isn't because we lost. I've been consistent. Even this season when we've had Tempo and we've won, abysmal. He is stealing a living, and I don't mean to make this personal, but he has been well below standard for a decade now, right? And this sport will never become a major sport when you don't improve your standards of your officials, and it is getting worse. It's not getting better, and he's an example of I don't understand what he has to do wrong before he gets removed, right? Because he's just not good enough. But the scrum was very clearly Lovejoy Chattamar could not hold his side up, right, and was folding in because he was folding in. He was dragging in Iogan with him, right? So and Iogan was struggling to understand what he was supposed to do. So West came on and essentially didn't scrummage. He essentially didn't put any weight through it, and it evened it up because Lovejoy, because he couldn't cope with the pressure coming on from that enormous pack that they picked. There was another penalty whereby he gave penalty for Trevor Davidson's elbow being in the wrong position. It then went up on and they gave a penalty which they kicked, by the way. It went up on the screen and they could see, well, actually no, his elbow was incorrect and was in the perfect position. And 10 points went, oh well, I can't change my mind because I've seen it on the screen, right? He was literally stood a meter away and he's called something wrong. I don't know how you can justify that.
I wasn't going to go there because the minute I saw he was reffing, I was like, we've got literally no chance anyway. But yeah, I'm not going to say any more because I don't want any slander. I totally agree with what Charles said.
How can you call a decision when it's bang in front of you, and you call it different to what is happening?
It reminds me of the discussion. It reminds me of and only because I saw a video about it because they were talking about it. But the Ashton Tuolangi thing, where Tuolangi punched him, and the touch judge was like, "I saw Ashton punch him back," and it physically never happened. Like at any point,
I was there.
How they've ever seen it on the screen? But like, what are you talking about? And it was just like a decision that's completely. And I mean, they joke, but the two of them, to be fair, joke about it now, considering what had happened at the time. But the fact that they both get cards, they both go off, and only one of them had ever actually thrown a punch at the other. It's like sometimes I do query like what people think that they have seen. Like, and I do agree. Like, yeah, but it also just felt like I honestly feel like we could have had like Luke Pearce, and I
I
still think
thought we'd
that
have
was
lost.
it's one of those
Yeah,
that
We
and like you
still would
said,
have
it all stems
lost.
and
yeah,
yeah, no, and it just a comment as well on like Tadara, like because we were really near where the players were coming off when they sat down. He was devastated,
yeah,
like
yeah. I can imagine.
like so you could see when it had happened he was mortified. Like he went straight up to try and like apologize, and the Bristol players tried to get him away. He was like, I'm just trying to say sorry, and then he came off and he was so angry at himself. And it's just a situation of like all he had to do was jump, but like you said, he wasn't. I think what saved it from really like I suppose a permanent red is it wasn't like he was watching the player or seeing where he was. It just got misjudged, and you're in the unfortunate situation that the way that that player landed. I mean, he could have broken his neck. It was
Yeah,
horrific.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that call was 100% right, and now you know Brundle probably not going to see Tadaro now. Certainly not through the European fixtures because I think that will be at least a week,
Yeah, it
depending on
could
what
be
decision they
shorter
make.
in
Yeah, so I'm
shorter
thinking
in
maybe
yeah.
it may be a situation of like three with a. I mean, it wasn't a tackle, so I don't know if they applied tackle school to it for that anyway. But you're probably looking at 2, 3 weeks. He's like a child still, isn't he? So he's got a clean record essentially at this point.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah. I
really.
mean,
But it
he
was
just
just
he ran
yeah,
in. It
you
was
could see
uncontrolled. Yeah, too much
you
pace.
could see yeah, too much pace, didn't jump, so there's no actual competition at any point. But you can also see at no point has he ever even noticed that that player
No,
was
no.
there. Like he never takes his eyes off the ball, which I think, like I said, is what helps it from being a permanent one. Because if you've seen the player and he's still done it, then you have a slightly different discussion. But I mean, the ref seemed pretty clear as well. Like he's tracking the ball, he's just got it wrong, and that was the decision. And but yeah, it's just and seeing how angry he was when he came off, I can't imagine, bless him, what he would have been feeling when they scored 3 tries in that period. Um, and yeah,
Yeah,
it just is what it is. But yeah, we never. Even from then, I know all of us said like in predictions that we thought Saints were going to win, but I have to be honest, I never really felt like we would. Like before the game, I mean, like I
I don't
wasn't,
know.
I
I
didn't,
still thought we should have.
yeah, but I didn't have the highest level of confidence that maybe I would have against like another team just because of our sort of losing history with them over the past few years. But
You generally look at the moment in the Prem, apart from Bath and Newcastle as the two anomalies, but the home
yeah,
team is generally getting wins. It's very hard to get a away
yeah,
win in the Prem anyway. Like I said, unless you're Bath or Newcastle, but you're involved in the fixture. But yeah, it's hard to win on the road in the Prem.
yeah,
But yeah, there's so many bits, and it's like with the I don't want to keep banging on about the ref, but it's like there's so many bits as well which is just inconsistent across the sport at the moment. Like
yeah,
the piece when the red card, like it's 100% a red card, it has to be a red card. He could have really hurt himself, the opposition player, but the opposition player has also just flung himself in the air. Like he can see Tadaro's there, and he's just flung himself out to try and catch the ball. Like they're both running into it, not considering the outcome. But like because one of them jumped and caught the ball, they come out better. Um, and then there's so many occasions now where like we were carrying on their line. Their player, I think it was Chick, got isolated. Their player picked up the ball, right? Fine, play on. But then he got given a holding on penalty. It's like he's picked it up. He's clearly not held on to it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that happens so how you get they put the hands up and they go one like first man in, he's allowed to pick up the ball.
yeah,
Okay, you see that all the time, but that's exactly what happens there. But sometimes that will happen, and the ref will give a holding on penalty. It's like a penalty for
yeah,
being turned over. Like, it's
yeah,
just like that happened quite a few times in that picture. Like for both sides got isolated, and then they'd pick up the ball, and it'd be like, yeah, penalty for holding on. If he'd have held on, they wouldn't have got the ball.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
It, it,
sometimes there would just seem to be a weird inconsistency between like what is just a clean turnover and what is the player is preventing them from turning the ball
yeah,
over. Like, yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
It
And
happened
also
in
just
the
consistency.
Newcastle game against Leicester. Like Raphael got like
Mm,
three when he picked up the ball.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's the problem with, and it isn't even just like a Tempest problem. It's like a problem with, like, there's just such inconsistency across. And I remember, I think it was last week, I was watching a game that Luke Pearce was reffing, and this was a collision in the air, and both players had jumped, both had their eyes on the ball, and he gave a penalty for one of the sides, and I can't remember which teams it was. And it's basically his reasoning was one of the players didn't jump as high as the other. And I thought, well, that doesn't make sense. I said, what if they just can't? Like,
Yeah,
I remember, like, I was watching it. I remember saying to my family when we were watching it at home, I said, well, what happens every time, like, Noah Kalori gets in the air and jumps twice as high as everyone else? Are we always going to penalize the other person because they don't have the ability to jump that high? Like, it was the
yeah,
one sort of decision in that game that I watched of his. I was like, I'm sorry, that makes no sense. I said, I get it if a player doesn't jump because they're not attempting to compete and they might take someone out in the air, and that makes sense, like with Tadaro. But I was like, if both players are jumping, you can't just go, well, you're going to have a penalty because you're a crappier jumper than
yeah,
the other person. Like with James Ram, for example, like he has a gymnastic background, can jump really high in the air. Does that mean that we then say to someone against him, like, well, Ram always has to get penalties now for him because he's jumped higher than everyone else? I was like, this is a bit ridiculous. But it just kind of speaks to the whole thing of like collisions in the air, like turnovers, all kinds of different things, like particularly at the breakdown as well. Like there's just such an inconsistency. The amount of times that you see people get penalties for holding on when they put their hands straight on the floor before the ball
yeah, yeah, or not
and things
related.
like that, or not clearly released, and it just feels like a little bit of a mess, really. Like I think the whole refereeing system is in a complete bit of turmoil, really, and I don't think they know
Talking,
what to do because you're also in the situation of like because unfortunately there are people out there that then decide to go online and trash all these people, which I just don't think you should ever do, and like tag people in personal things, just be like, you're rubbish, blah blah blah, this, that, and the other. Like, what? Why would you? I don't get it. But it also then it makes refereeing like a really unpopular kind of job to go into.
yeah,
Because they're stuck in a situation of we have to stick with these referees because no one else wants to do it, but they're not stopping to think, right, maybe we still need to work on improving the service as is.
yeah. I don't mean to be like personal with it at all, and I don't mean to be
Hmm.
critical against individuals as such, right? But I'm at my wit's end with Tempest because it's every week, every game, and like you talked about jumping there. Well, in the Davidson thing, straight in front of him, he just called something else. With a line out, so there was one line out where it was so far not straight, and we'd competed, and he said no competition,
No
it can be not
competition
straight.
yet. I
Yeah,
do remember one of
Like,
them.
and
Yeah.
like you heard Ben Kay got like absolutely flabbergasted about it, and the same was with a few other decisions. Like the commentators were actively calling out the referee decisions throughout because they're seeing this the standard drop so low, and it's not for everyone. You get to go. You give it your best shot. You try to improve. The system should be better at helping people get better and improving them and developing them as referees and people, etc., etc. But at a certain point, you've got to go. Like it's not going to work. And like it's the same in with the players. If you go through the academy for a number of those players, at a certain point they go, "We've done everything we can. You've done everything you can. It's just not going to work. Go get a job in the city and make more money." Like it's like that. There's this. Yeah, I don't want to be critical, and I'm sure he's a good bloke and all this sort of stuff. It's not personal. I just think the standards been so poor for so long that like
Yeah.
something's got to change because
yeah,
we can't like that game didn't matter so much because our performance didn't justify the result anyway. It didn't affect the result. There are too many games when it does affect the result, and you can't explain that to a new entrant to the market. A new viewer. Well, why have they made that decision? Well, because they've got it wrong. That worked for so long, right? They're human beings. They make mistakes, but when they're deciding games by just clear and
Yeah.
obvious errors, yeah, it limits the capacity for the sport to grow, I think. But anyway, let's
Yeah,
move
it
on
almost
to
let's
well, I was
move
just gonna
on.
say just to finish, it almost felt like a good thing in a weird way that like the performance wasn't that great. Because could you imagine if it was and you'd lost because of it? Like at
yeah,
least this week it
exactly.
was like, you know what, we didn't deserve it anyway. We really weren't very good. Um, it is what it is. But yeah, I think it's not like we're only saying it about one ref, or we're the only team saying it about particular refs. It's like it feels like supporters in the Prem generally are frustrated. you
Yeah,
know I just want to say that
100%.
like it isn't just us, like based on the comments and discussions you're seeing online, that there's an overall, and even obviously from like commentators, there seems to be an overall frustration at the moment with, and it isn't even about like poor performances, just like even if all of the rest perform really well, there's still inconsistency between them. Like this person thinks this should be a penalty, this person doesn't think this should be a penalty. So yeah, it is a bit of a mess.
And there are
But
some
yeah.
really good refs, right? There are some really good refs, but I'm not saying that all those refs get everything right, but you accept their mistakes. I think Luke Pierce is as a top. He's probably the best ref in the world in my opinion. I don't agree with a lot of the things. I don't agree with the way he imposes himself on the game to try and speed it up. I don't always agree with his decision making, right? But he's going to make his own decisions. He's going to make his own mistake. That's perfectly acceptable. He's doing the best that he can do. Sarah Cox, great referee, I think.
Yep.
You know, there are good refs. It's just like they need to be promoted and pushed and pushed and pushed, and they need to bring standards along. Refs also come into the game aren't the best and get better. Wayne Barnes, beginning of his career, I mean, wow. But he towards the end of his career, he sort of justified himself. His ego had gone because he'd proven to everyone how good he was, and therefore he didn't have any insecurities. He just called the game really well. They still took forever, but he called the game really well. And I think dare I say it, I think Lee Dixon has got better. I think like even he's got better.
Carl.
Carl, yeah, I'm sure Lee would be great as well. But
He can't be any worse than his brother.
But no, I think Carl's got better. I think he's been
no, I agree.
exposed.
I think the tipping point had been, and I'm not just saying that because it was like us in that game. Do you remember that game against Harlequins and there was a big outroar and a big sort of backlash about it? Seemed to be like it almost felt like weirdly that kind of needed to happen for Dixon in a weird way because actually it pushed his standards up. Do I absolutely love his attitude, the way that he refs? Not, and that's a personal thing, right? Sometimes some of the way that refs speak to people, I'm like, okay, you can't claim to want respect from the players if you're not giving it back. Like sometimes I feel like the way that they just dismiss, I don't love, but that's just a personality clash. But no, I do think that he's improved. I think Christoph Ridley's a really good ref, and I think there's let's say there are good ones out there, and we need to get the rest of the standards up there, and it's not impossible, but it just also feels like there doesn't seem to be enough repercussions on poor performances to make that happen.
Carl Dixon should be the best ref on the pitches because he played scrum half. You know what I mean? He was the little mouthy one that gobs off to the referee side. So he knows all the stuff that goes on. So he should be able to like turn that into being the best ref possible, surely, because he knows all the rules. It doesn't make any sense.
That's why, I'm not sure he knows all the rules as a player because I don't think all the players know all the rules.
No.
But I think he's got better, and that's all you can ask. And like I say, Chris Ridley's a good example. He's got better tenfold. Like we played them down the road a few years ago, and I'm like, that is unacceptable that you've got a former Tigers employee refereeing an East Midlands derby, but he was exceptional in that game. So and it's sometimes that pushes the performance out of them because like they can't afford to make a foot wrong. But it's the same with Carl Dixon. But like the standards are getting better, but I haven't seen that with and like I said, let's give up on it because I don't want to. We don't want to do It's not.
We don't want a lawsuit against us.
No, it's not fair. But anyway, it's just frustration sometimes coming out. But
exactly.
Let's move on to the Po game. Back to Champions Cup. It should, the last couple of years have been like back to the old days. Like the tournaments have been really good for us as a club. The performances have been tremendous. The getting to the later stages of the tournaments, playing against some of the best teams in the world. Like it puts Northampton on the map, and it puts this group. Like I said, that if we can get that team on the pitch, we can achieve in this tournament. And I mean, what are your thoughts ahead of this weekend's game?
Depends who's available, doesn't it? Really, I suppose, because there's quite a lot of injuries still. But it'd be nice to be back in Europe. I was hoping to go, but I can't, unfortunately. Either of you two go.
No, I can't justify trips to France with a newborn.
No.
It's gonna be tough. Like they're flying in the top 14, like absolutely flying. They just dismantled La Rochelle over the weekend, like absolutely put them to bed. And they're like second in the top 14 now, like below Toulouse. So yeah, they are. That's gonna be because at first you sort of thought that you saw the table and I thought like, oh okay, so it's going to be Bordeaux away. It's going to be tough, but I think Po away is going to be exceptionally tough as well. Like you can come away with a win there, then I think that's really going to boost like team performance, team morale, because like I would say that we are not the favourites for that
No, I
at
agree.
all.
I fully agree. I mean,
Yeah,
like you look at their side, you look at the signings that they've made, like they're enormous. But then they've
yeah,
also got some absolute quality in their backs as well. I mean, yeah, it's like they're a good side. It's going to be really tough, and we're not. It's not like we're coming in with a huge amount of form, so
no,
it's going to be an absolute. It's a great challenge for the side. It's that we've said it before. Sometimes in some games, it almost seems everything's flat, and they don't seem there's like almost a. I know it's not a lack of motivation. I know that
yeah,
they give it all in every game, but it seems to be a flatness. And then we come up against like the bigger teams, and they perform unbelievably well. And it's almost like we that has to happen.
Yeah.
Because if we have to raise the game against Po because they're an enormous outfit. Their kick chase is tremendous. Pace in the backs is outstanding. Like
yeah.
scrum time is going to be tough. So we have to raise our game to do anything
Yeah.
against them.
I think having obviously having all the England boys back, like because except for Finn, who we didn't have to rest, we rested them all. So and except for
Yeah,
Tommy is obviously still carrying that injury, like. And Dingers has a side injury, but I don't know what the level of seriousness is of that. But that like Pollock, Mitch, Coles are coming back in, and they'll be absolutely raring to go because they've just come off of an incredible like
yeah,
QNS series for one. So it isn't just that they're all playing really well, but they've also like they're on a winning streak themselves. So to bring that kind of morale into the team of like, well, we've just come off of a 4 out of 4 in the QNS. Like we are expecting 2 out of 2 in these European fixtures. Like, and and having Henry Pollock back, who's gonna just be absolutely raring to go like against like a big French outfit. It's gonna be in his element, isn't he? Like, so having all those lads back is going to be really really important. And I think makes it a better decision that they did rest them against Bristol, knowing how well Poe are doing. Then you've got the Bulls at home, which is potentially an easier prospect depending on what team they send over, because there's always difficulties with the way that they have to manage that for the Bulls. But yeah, that we also played them away, didn't we? And we sent the first team away to the Bulls, got that incredible performance. Like we need a
yeah,
replication of that essentially. Obviously,
exactly.
going all the way to South Africa to do that is a bit different to going over to France to do it. But you need that level of performance, like that is what we're going to need. And I can't help but think
100%.
that like if you can't get up for going up against the second best team in France, like what you should be playing the sport. So
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
They've got nothing to lose, though, have they? Really, this is probably what we need. We're not in a good state at the minute.
I
We're
think going in
away.
as underdogs helps
That's
definitely.
what I mean. Like, remember the Leinster games? Like, we go over there. You know what I mean? The underdog tag. The boys have got plenty to prove, and honestly, the best away days in European rugby is in France. I've had so
Yeah.
many away, and they're always the best. So yeah, if they've apparently got no chance at all, who says we can't do it? Eh? You never know.
Who says we can't? Because I
Yeah.
name a team. If I name a team like Fischetti or Iogun, Wright, Big Trev, Coles, JJ, Kemeny, Chick, or maybe Pollock, or maybe Pearson gets into that back three. Mitchell, Finn, Dingers, Hutch, Furbank, Slights, Hendy possibly back on the wing. Like you name that side and like, well, sorry, it might even be Freeman back. Like I'm hoping. I know he's had a hamstring injury, but you never know. Like you name that side, you go, well, yeah, it's an international world class team. They can go to France and win. It's just we yet to have that side on the pitch firing, and it's gonna happen though, isn't it? No reason it can't happen this weekend.
No. Yeah. Exactly. And they'll know that as much as everyone else will know that. And yeah, like you said, like they gave us like our chances against Leinster basically didn't exist. Like Finn had said, we got written off before we'd even stepped on the plane to fly over there. Like, and that's probably what I don't think the commentary is going to be quite that intense because obviously this is not a European semi-final, but you're certainly going in like with the expectation of, yeah, we're third in the Prem, but our third in the Prem is well below probably post second in the top 14, like in terms of the levels that we're performing at right now. So you
They've
are,
played more games as well, haven't they?
yeah, they have played more, yeah. So you've got to also say that their form is their form is arguably stronger because they've played 11, 12 fixtures already and they're still second. So, they really are performing well at the moment. But like, yeah, it's probably the first sort of time this season that we're getting a proper kind of test of where that first team is, because it's probably the first time that we're actually probably going to see most of them actually together, hopefully. Obviously, we always record these on like a Monday or a Tuesday before we find out about the injuries, and then we get told afterwards, and we're like, oh, okay. But yeah, we've really got to hope as well, because obviously there isn't going to be Tadaro, so we really do need to hope that we've got a Hendy or a Freeman back.
Or
Not that there is
Ram must be back.
Or a Ram, yeah.
Ram, yeah.
Or a Ram would be really good. And that's not
Although
that's not to say anything
did
bad
all right
about
against best.
yeah, and I think Kakasawa has actually really has stood out for me in the PRC as well. So definitely not to say that he couldn't perform either. But I think you want your sort of most experienced people really when you start hitting Europe, to be honest. And that will probably be Kakasawa eventually. It just isn't now compared to who else is in the team, is it? So yes, you've got to think, I mean, if the French are big, I'm so looking forward to seeing JJ just getting in amongst that, like, because he's also a ginormous man who came to us from France. So yeah,
I mean, we're gonna have to run it though. We're gonna have to run that big pack around. I mean, they've got, he's like a perennial arch enemy for me, like Julian Montoya. Like he's such a good player, right? And he obviously played for them up the road and like was outstanding for them. And then for Argentina, he seems to always get man of the match against the Aussies. But he's just, it's like we've got him again this weekend. You can't get away from him. But yeah, like we're going to have to run their pack, because if we try and go toe to toe with them, I think it's a tough one. I think there's got to be a lot of ball in play, a lot of rush, a lot of kick, chase, keep the ball live, get their heavy forwards moving around the pitch.
Yeah, we said it before, haven't we, against other French sides? We said it would be able to play Cast a couple of times last season, that like they're a big unit and you can tire them out, like because like you even think about JJ, right? JJ got JJ was kind of the size they wanted him to be in France. It doesn't work in our model, but it kind of what they wanted over there, right? But you also notice, like, yeah, he did I think 65 minutes at the weekend, so he's definitely pushing and he's getting there. But like when he was back in Stade Francais, the weight he was before, like he'd have been done. Yeah. Probably by half time, realistically. Like even if he played on like for another 10 minutes or the others. Yeah. And so yeah, we are going to need, we're going to need. I think Mitch is going to be an absolute crucial element just because of the speed that he gets out of the side. Like, he's a catalyst for that, really, isn't he? Like the absolute linchpin of what we need for that, along with Finn. So yeah, it'd be good to get those guys back and give us a good shot. But yeah, it's sort of hard to know how it's gonna go, really, because they've been on a 1 week break now, but they are coming off. Like I'd say Mitch in particular, I thought was incredible in the Coordination Series. I thought like his form was unbelievable, like even higher than I thought it was for the Lions, and I still thought it was really good for the Lions. But like he got into that England camp and it just went stratospheric. So if you can bring that form back to us and get out of the team what we know is there, like I said, that Litchfield try at the weekend, like we saw flashes of what we could do and how easy it is when it comes together, because that try was so easy when the passes went through, the hands and the kick went through, like it was perfect. So we know it's there. We just need the players back that we know we can get that out of them, and Mitch and Finn as that partnership is so important for that.
Yeah, no, playing with the pace and moving them is big. I think also discipline's massive against a side like that. So if you give them any opportunities with possession in your 22, they're probably going to score. So you have to win the territory battle, make them try and play from their third of the pitch, and don't give away any penalties, because if you give them the opportunity to win territory by just kicking to the corner, well, then they're just going to score, and you'll soon roll on those points, and then the game gets away from you. So discipline and pace of ball is going to be fundamental. Should we get to some predictions now?
Sure.
I think it's my turn to go first. I'm obviously going to back the boys. I'm going to go 28, 32, and I will back. Or who's going to be playing? I'm going to back Hutch to get a try. Bit of a left field choice, but I've just got a feeling. Go on, sorry.
I feel like Hutch deserves a try after everything he's done in some of the other games. I'm like, come on, he deserves some.
I don't know.
He's too busy making them, isn't he? He's too busy setting people up.
I don't know whether to play the game and play it so I can get points. Because the way we're playing, and the way they're playing, I don't think we'll win. And I can never go against the Saints, but I'm gonna go 38-29 to them.
Yeah, I mean it's probably a fair pick. I think I don't think you're far off. What's within 10 is probably realistic.
I'll go Mitch.
Yeah, good call. Go on, Jess.
I don't like backing against my boys, but sorry.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. 32-35. Let's try score. You know what? He's gotten a few in the past couple matches, so I'm gonna pick JJ.
JJ, yeah. I mean, we do use him a lot.
And at the end of the day, if you get a line out within 5 meters, or you get up there's a chance he's going to bash through some people.
Yeah, we use him a lot.
So I'll go for a forward and
I'll
go for a forward to change it up, so it's not all backs.
That's a good call, yeah, because we use them a lot in that close to the line, getting a bit of pace, and they can't really be stopped. I mean, Sai's just played the actual game there, hasn't he? He's actually playing it seriously.
Yeah.
He wants to win.
Because I'm winning, I want to keep that points going.
Well, okay. Well, anyway, thanks for listening, everyone. It's been another great show. We will be back next week. And we will be in touch. Please remember to follow us on all socials. Give us some comments. Get in touch. Let us know how you're thinking. I've been Charles. Jess has been Jess. Simon's been Simon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.